Welcome to Heart Over Gold, the channel where love, kindness, and humanity shine brighter than any fortune. In today's story, Charles Sterling was a man who had everything: wealth, success, and complete control over his life. But one ordinary night in Manhattan, while dining alone at his favorite restaurant, his carefully built world began to crack. Across the room stood the woman he had once loved and lost, Aurora Castillo, and with her were 3 young girls who looked just like him. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments, and keep up with our latest stories. Have you ever thought your past was behind you until it suddenly appeared right in front of you? That's exactly what happened to Charles Sterling, a man who had everything, a self-made millionaire, always in control, always ahead. But on one ordinary night, everything changed. It started like any other Tuesday in Manhattan. The air was cool, the lights of the Upper East Side glowing gently as Charles stepped out of his black town car and into the warm entrance of Eden, one of the city's most exclusive restaurants. He adjusted the cuff of his custom Italian suit and gave a short nod to the maître d'. "Your usual table is ready, Mr. Sterling," Javier said with a smile, guiding him toward a quiet corner with a beautiful view of Central Park. Charles didn't even need to glance at the menu. A young server approached with a wine list, but Charles simply waved him off. "The Bordeaux, Thomas." As always. Thomas nodded and left, while Charles slid into his seat, pulling out his phone. 3 missed calls from his mother. He sighed. She was still trying to set him up with someone, still refusing to let go of the past. That past had a name, Aurora Castillo. That had been 9 years since she walked out of his life, and yet, every so often, the memory of her crept in like a paper cut, small, sharp, and impossible to ignore. He was just about to check his emails when a sound reached his ears. A soft laugh. Light, musical, and achingly familiar. He froze. That laugh had once been his morning melody. It had lived in their old apartment like a ghost, long after she left. Charles turned his head instinctively, eyes searching the restaurant, and then he saw her. There she was, Rara. Her once long chestnut hair was now shorter, brushing just past her shoulders, flowing in soft waves. She walked with the same grace she had in their college days. Her dark green dress shimmered under the restaurant's golden lights, and even from across the room her eyes still held that spark that used to undo him. But it wasn't just her that caught his breath. Walking beside her were 3 young girls, 3 small versions of her, each one with the same chestnut hair. As they stepped closer, Charles's heart nearly stopped. The girls had his eyes. Not just similar, his exact gray eyes, staring back at him from 3 different faces. They looked about 9 years old. 9. The number hit him like a punch. His grip on the table tightened, his knuckles turned white. One of the girls clutched a book to her chest and walked quietly, her eyes low, nearly bumping into a passing waiter, soaking in everything around her as though she were trying to remember every detail. The third held her chin high and her back perfectly straight, so much like his own mother that it nearly made him laugh from the pain. They sat just 2 tables away. So close he could hear them talk. So close that avoiding her wasn't an option anymore. Thomas returned with the wine, but Charles barely noticed. He didn't even touch the glass. His mind spun as memories of their last fight resurfaced. The fight about him taking over the family company instead of building the dream cafe chain they had planned together. She had vanished after that. No calls, no trace, no goodbye. He had searched, but she'd erased herself completely. Now he understood why. And the truth was sitting 2 tables away in the form of 3 little girls with his face. One of the girls, the curious one, was already watching him, tilting her head, studying him like a riddle. Charles could see it in her gaze, the reflection of himself. His throat tightened. His heart pounded in his chest. What was he supposed to do? Pretend he didn't see them? Walk away like a stranger? For the first time in years, he didn't have an answer. And then, it happened. Aurora looked up, their eyes met. Time stopped. Charles's face went pale. The menu slipped from his hand, clattering to the floor and rattling the silverware. Everything else, the voices, the clinking glasses, the music, faded into nothing. The curious girl tugged at Aurora's sleeve, her small voice cut through the silence like a knife. "Mom, why does that man look like the picture in your memory box?" Charles heard every word, and every syllable broke something inside him. Aurora stiffened. Years of teaching high school drama had trained her well. She kept her expression calm, but her hands shook slightly as she reached down and picked up the menu. Her chest rose and fell quickly, a subtle but familiar sign of her nervousness. The reader daughter clutched her book, A Wrinkle in Time, and gave Charles a long, thoughtful look. The third girl whispered something to her sisters that made them giggle softly. Aurora didn't smile. Her lips were pressed tightly together. Charles still hadn't touched the wine. Beads of water formed on the glass, matching the sweat on his palms. His mind raced with questions. Why hadn't she told him? Did they know who he was? What were their names? The thought of 9 birthdays, bedtime stories, scraped knees, and first school plays he'd missed crushed him like a wave. His phone vibrated. Another call from his mother. If only she knew. She had not 1 but 3 grandchildren, and all of them were here. Javier approached Aurora's table with a familiar warmth. "Ah, Mrs. Castillo, welcome back. And to the young ladies Camila, Valeria, and Sofia, always a pleasure." Charles sat still, his ears ringing. Camila and Valeria and Sofia, the names echoed in his head. He matched them to what he had seen. Camila-curious and alert. Valeria, quiet reader. Sofia, the graceful one. Of course, those were Aurora's daughters. And without a doubt, his too. Mum, Valeria said softly, not taking her eyes off Charles. "Isn't that the man from your old business plan? The one in the coffee shop photo?" Aurora's cheeks turned pink. Charles remembered that photo. Their shared dream, Castillo Blanco, a cozy chain of artistic coffee shops that blended her creativity with his business sense. The idea they had sketched out on napkins and notebooks late into the night, and now, 9 years later, it all came rushing back. Sofia, calm and poised, carefully arranged her silverware and spoke with polite grace. "Mother," she said gently, "I believe it would be rude to stare, even if that man looks exactly like us." Aurora cut her off, her voice tense, but politely. "Let's just enjoy our celebratory dinner celebration." Charles's mind was racing. What were they celebrating? Had he missed a birthday or an achievement? How many other celebrations had he missed? He found himself standing without consciously deciding. He felt like his legs were made of wood. As he took the first step towards the table, he saw Aurora's eyes widen and her hand instinctively reach out as if to protect their daughters. Thomas appeared at his side. "Sir, is everything all right with the wine?" Charles barely heard him. 9 years of leading board meetings had taught him to make decisions with firmness, even though his inner world was crumbling each step towards. The table felt like walking through a deep current, but he kept moving forward. He needed to know her, needed to understand. The girls watched him approach, each with a different expression. Camila's evident curiosity, Valeria's perceptive assessment over her book, and Sofia's observant calm. 3 distinct versions of his own face looked back at him, mixed with Aurora's features in a way that made his heart ache. Aurora stood up just as he reached their table, placing herself in front of the girls in an instinctive protective gesture. Up close he could see that their ears had treated her well. She was even more beautiful than he remembered, with small lines around her eyes. That indicated a life filled with laughter. He hadn't been a part of Charles' Chasade, her voice barely audible but still with that musicality that had always made him smile every morning. Now it tied a knot in his chest, filled with aura. He managed to say, though his voice sounded foreign to him, thin. Unable to stop himself, he looked at each of the girls, and Camila, Valeria, and Sofia. The silence that followed was deafening. Camila was the first to break the tension, leaning forward over Theatable despite Sofia's disapproving look. "So you're him, the man from the coffee shop. Plant's mum keeps them at home." Camila, Aurora warned, her voice trembling slightly. The restaurant continued its elegant dance of waiters and quiet conversations, oblivious to the emotional earthquake unfolding at their table. "Please," Charles said, his voice raw with emotion. "May I sit down?" He gestured to an empty chair at their table, his eyes fixed on Aurora's face. She hesitated, then nodded slightly, and, back in her seat, Valeria carefully marked her place in her book and set it aside, her grey eyes. The Samiases watched him with an intensity that tightened his throat. "Mom says you're very good at business," she said matter-of-factly. "She uses your company's success as a case study in her economics class." Charles raised his eyebrows, looking at Aurora. "Economics?" A slight blush colored her cheeks. "I now teach business and drama at Wellington High. The students really respond to real-world examples," Sophia Van more upright added. "Our mother is the youngest department head. She's very..." A protective pride filled Charles's voice. Someone had taught these girls to look after their mother, to be her champions. Someone who wasn't him. "That doesn't surprise me," he said softly, remembering how Aurora had always been the smartest person in any room. Even if she never showed it, you always had a gift for teaching, for helping people discover their potential. "How did she do it with you?" Camila asked innocently, although there was nothing innocent about how the question made Aurora pale. Memories flooded him, Aurora staying up late to help him study for his business finals, her brilliant suggestions during his internship presentations, how she had always pushed him to think big, to dream bolder, until had chosen the safe path instead of their shared dream. Yes, he answered honestly, looking directly at Aurora. Exactly like that. A waiter approached their table, hesitated at the obvious tension, and then cleared his throat. Shall I add anything else, Madam Sterling? Before Aurora could answer, Sophia intervened with perfect social grace. Yes, please. Today we are celebrating our academic achievements, and it seems appropriate that all interested parties be present. She emphasized the last words in such a way that Charles wondered how much these girls knew about him. Academic achievements. He seized the opportunity to ask. Valeria smiled slightly. We extra served a special recognition. I won the regional science fair with my project on urban agriculture. Camila almost bounced in her seat. I got third role in the school play It's the Wizard of Oz. I'm playing Dorothy and I said. Sophia proudly was elected the youngest student body president in their school's history. Charles felt like he had been punched in the stomach. They were so accomplished, so brilliant, so much like him and Aurora in different ways. His eyes burned as he looked at Aurora. They're incredible. He murmured, "Yeah," she agreed softly, and then added a hint of steel in her voice. They already had everything they needed. The unspoken words hung in the air. They didn't need you. But looking at these three extraordinary girls, his daughters, wasn't so sure anymore. The waiter returned with the silverware, and as he placed it down, Charles noticed something that chilled him to the bone. In Valeria's book was a familiar leather bookmark, one he had given Aurora years ago, engraved with her favorite tech quote. Some infinities are bigger than other infinities. She had kept it all this time. Had kept it, and now her daughter was using it, probably without knowing its significance. How many other parts of him had Aurora woven into her daughters' lives without them knowing? Mr. Sterling, Sophia said formally, pulling him from his thoughts. Since you are joining our celebratory dinner, perhaps you would also be interested to know about our plans for the future. We have been very strategic in our approach to high school. High school, the words hit him like stones. His daughters were planning their future, and he barely knew them. The weight of everything he had lost pressed down on him, threatening to crush him completely. The waiter arrived with the menus, offering a momentary reprieve from tension. Charles watched as each girl handled the menu differently. Valeria methodically evaluating the options, Camila flipping through the pages with enthusiasm, and Sophia carefully examining the wine list. Despite being too young to order the cocoa ice, excellent here, Charles commented automatically, and then realized he was giving menu suggestions to his own daughters as if they were colleagues. The absurdity of the situation threatened to him. It's Mom's favorite dish, Camila said cheerfully. She always orders it on special occasions. She paused, tilting her head. Did Yuck know? Is that why you're ordering it too? Aurora's hand tightened on her water glass. Remember what we've discussed about asking personal questions? But Mum, Camila protested, you always say that knowledge is power, and Mr. Sterling seems to know a lot about you. Besides, he has the same gray eyes as us, and the same furrow between his eyebrows when he thinks hard, just like Sophia when she prepares her speeches for student council. Valeria looked up from the menu, her analytical mind piecing things together. And he has the same habit of touching his left fist. One, he's nervous just like me during science presentations. Girls, Aurora's voice was strained. Please no, Charles intervened softly. They deserve answers. Looked at each girl in turn, then at Aurora. They deserve the truth. The truth. Sophia's voice was cautious, measured. About why your picture is in Mom's memory box, about why she keeps the old Castillo Blanco business plans in her desk drawer, about why she always gets caught on Father's Day. Aurora fell completely silent, and Charles felt like a air had been sucked out of the room. He hadn't known about Father's Day, hadn't known she still thought about then. Or perhaps Sophia continued with same precision about why Mom accepted that teaching position at Wellington High 9 years ago, even though it was on the other side of the country from where he was building his company. Suddenly, everything clicked into place. Wellington High was in Seattle. That's why he had never seen them here. They must be in New York for a special occasion. The regional science fair, the school play, the student council position. These weren't just common achievements. They were the reasons they had returned to the city where it had all begun. You moved to Seattle, he said quietly, looking at Aurora. That's why I could never find you. I had to, she whispered, and for the first time he saw tears in her eyes. You had chosen your path. I had to choose mine without telling me anything about them. The words came out sharper than he intended, and he saw the three girls flinch slightly. You made it very clear that Castillo Blanco was your priority, Aurora said, her voice tight. The night you told me you were taking over Thai Company instead of starting Castillo Blanco with me, you said, and, I quote, some dreams have to die so others can live. Remember? Yes, I remember. He had been so sure he was doing the right thing, following in his father's footsteps, securing their future. He had thought at the time he hadn't known that future was already forming inside her 3 little lives that would inherit his grey eyes and her tenacious spirit. 3 weeks after that night, Aurora continued, her voice barely audible. I found out I was pregnant with triplets. I went to your office to tell you. Charles's stomach clenched. He knew exactly what she was going to say next. The memory of that day had haunted him for years, though, for completely different reasons than he had imagined. But you were in a she finished for him, her voice, and your assistant told me you were too busy to see anyone, not even me, that you had told them not to disturb you under any circumstances. Camila exhaled softly as Valeria's hand found her mother's under the table. Sophia's perfect posture faltered for the first time as she looked at her parents. You never came back, Charles said, and the realization hit him like a punch. That was the last time you tried to contact me. What would have been the point? Aurora asked. And now the tears were flowing freely. You had made your decision, your father's company, your legacy. I wasn't going to trap you in a life you hadn't chosen. The silence that followed was only broken by the soft clinking of fine china at nearby tables. Charles looked at his hands spread out on the immaculate white tablecloth, trying to grasp the magnitude of what he had lost with a simple order to his assistant. No interruptions. You thought you were protecting me, he said slowly, looking at Aurora. By not telling me you thought you were freeing me to pursue my ambitions. Weren't those ambitions worth more to you than anything else? The bitterness in her voice was tinged with an old pain. The great Charles Sterling, following in his father's footsteps, building an empire, an empty empire, he replied, his voice breaking. Do you know what I did with Castello Blanco? Our plans. All 4 of them looked at him with identical curiosity. Even Sophia seemed to forget her perfect posture as she leaned forward slightly. I built Ita Nue 3 years ago. Not as our chain of coffee shops, but as a charitable foundation. It funds arts, education, and business training for underprivileged youth. Because every time I passed a coffee shop, I remembered our dream. I remembered you. Aurora brought her hand to her mouth. The Castillo Blanco Foundation. It's yours, it's mine, she confirmed, and then looked at the girls. And now I suppose it's theirs too. Valeria's analytical mind was clearly racing. In addition to everything else, it's foundation that funded our school's new performing arts center. It's named after Mum. It's named after both of you, Charles said softly. Castillo Blanco. I never stopped thinking about what we could have built together. Camila, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, suddenly spoke. Mum cries every time she reads about the foundation in the newspaper. She keeps all the articles in her comma. Sophia interrupted, showing a protectiveness that tugged at Charles's heart. These girls had grown up watching their mother carry this burden alone. No, it's okay, Aurora said, dabbing her eyes with her napkin. They should know I kept all the articles because I wanted you girls to know that Mr. Sterling does good things in the world, that it's not just about profit margins and corporate takeovers. But you never told him about us, Valeria said, a hint of accusation in her voice. We could have known him. We could have been part of that good work. Would you have wanted that? Charles asked suddenly, looking at each girl in turn. To know me, to be part of my life. We already are, in a way, Sophia replied diplomatically. Our mother made sure we knew about Blanco Technologies, environmental initiatives. We follow your company's charitable works. We even— She glanced at her sisters, who nodded encouragingly. Even bought shares in the company with our allowance last year, 1 share each. Charles felt his heart swell. Your shareholders, very small ones, Valeria clarified. But we wanted to own a piece of your world. Even if you didn't know about us, I would have given you Charles whispered, his voice thick with emotion. Everything I've built, or everything I am, it would have been yours. It should have been yours. And now? Camila asked, her usual bubbly curiosity replaced by an almost desperate hope. Could it be ours now? Aurora took her daughter's hand. But Charles spoke first. It already is, whether you want it or not, whether you're ready or not. Of writhing I have is yours. My name, my company, my foundation, and my heart. If you want it. Aurora's breath hitched. Charles, you can't just, with this voice was soft but firm, can't just offer my daughters what is rightfully theirs. Can't just try to make up for 9 lost years. It's not that simple, Aurora protested. But Sophia interrupted her with an uncharacteristic emotion in her usually controlled voice. Why not? She asked, her perfect composure cracking a little. We've spent our whole lives knowing half of who we are, reading about her father in business magazines, watching his interviews on CNBC, pretending we're only interested in the success stories. She paused, recomposing herself. When we just wanted to know if we inherited our love for numbers from him or from you. Their numbers are definitely from him, Aurora said softly, a small smile playing on her lips. I was always the creative one, but both are in us. Valeria observed her analytical mind working overtime, like when Camilla acts she has your dramatic flair mum but dad's strategic thinking when approaching each role. The word dad hung in the air like a fragile soul, and Charles's heart skipped a beat at hearing it for the first time. And when Sophia runs student council meet, Camilla added enthusiastic about the topic she uses mum's teaching techniques. But dad's negotiation strategies, we've watched all your TED Talks, Dad, Sophia added, looking at Charles, slightly flushed. All of them? Charles asked, his voice thick with emotion. Valeria confirmed several times. We've analyzed your speaking patterns, your management philosophies, your approach to corporate responsibility. It's like we've been studying for an exam we never thought we'd take. The waiter approached, again looking unsure. Would you like to order? Yes, Sophia said decisively, taking charge again. I think we all need a moment to properly review the menus, and perhaps, she added with a meaningful look at her mother, consider new possibilities. As everyone picked up their menus, Charles noticed that her hands were trembling slightly. He wanted to reach out and calm them as used to before her drama performances in college, but he no longer had that right. Oh, Aurora, he said quietly as the girls debated appetizer C. No, this is overwhelming for everyone, but they are extraordinary. You did an incredible job raising them, and if you'll let me, I would like to spend the rest of my life trying to deserve them. Trying to deserve her. We can't just erase 9 years, she whispered. No, he agreed, but maybe we can build something new, something even better than Castillo Blanco. Before Aurora could respond, Camila's voice interrupted with her characteristic enthusiasm. Mom, they have your favorite Teco-clade soul for dessert. Remember you said it reminded you of your first date? Stopped abruptly, looking at her parents with wide eyes. Oh, with Dad, here in this restaurant. The memory hit them both at the same time. Their first date, eat the Eden, barely affordable on their grad student budgets, sharing the same soul because they could only afford one dessert between them. Had Aurora been coming here all these years, ordering the same dessert, keeping that memorial of her gaze, told him everything he needed to know. If you're enjoying this video and want more content like this, subscribe and turn on the notification bell. That way you won't miss any of the incredible stories we'll be posting soon. Your support greatly helps the channel grow and allows us to bring you more of what you love. Thank you. The waiter returned to take their order, creating a brief respite from the emotional intensity. Charles couldn't help but notice how each girl ordered, Valeria requesting detailed information about the preparation methods, Camilla choosing with impulsive enthusiasm, and Sophia negotiating a subtle menu modification with diplomatic skill. Like a board meeting, he murmured, earning an inquisitive look from Arathi, analyst, the innovator and the negotiator. They're like the perfect corporate team. They're not a corporate team, Aurora said sharply, and then softened. They're just girls. They're girls who need to be allowed to just be girls. Charles nodded slowly. You're right. I'm sorry. I think I'm trying to find ways to connect with them through the only world I've known for the past 9 years. We don't mind, Valeria interjected. Woe had clearly been listening. In fact, I wanted to ask you about your recent shift towards sustainable technologists. The market analysis you published last quarter suggested. Valeria interrupted gently. Perhaps we could save the business conversation for when Sophia challenged, surprising everyone with her intensity. For another 9 years, Mum, we've spent our lives tiptoeing around this, around him, around duo we are. Maybe it's time to stop pretending we're just 3 random, talented students from Wellington High. Camilla nodded vigorously. Yeah, you know how hard it is to pretend. We don't notice when business newspapers have Dad's picture on the cover, or when other kids talk about the Castillo Blanco Foundation's Latest project, or when Grandma Sterling tells us we have our father's business sense but refuses to say anything else about them. Only by accident, Sophia clarified, usually after her second glass of Winnie at Christmas dinners. She keeps a picture of you and Mum from college in her study, but she turns it face down every time we visit. The mention of Margaret Sterling brought another wave of memories. Her unwavering support for his relationship with Aurora in college, her devastation when they broke up. He had always wondered if she knew about the girls, if she'd played a part in the decision to keep them from him. She never forgave me, he said quietly, for choosing the companion of her daughter over all of us. Aurora corrected, but now her voice sounded less harsh. Though I suppose we didn't give you a chance to choose otherwise. Would you have chosen differently? Camilla asked soothingly. If you had known about us. The question hung in the air like a sustained note in a symphony. Charles looked at each of their faces, those extraordinary girls who carried his DNA but who had been molded by Aurora's love and guidance. He thought of the loneliers at the top of Blanco Technology, the empty victory of each successful maga, the empty penthouse he returned to each night in a heartbeat. He answered, his voice rough with conviction. Everything I've built, everything Ivy Keeved means nothing compared to what I missed with you, with all of you. Irreparably caught her breath, and he saw tears welling in her eyes again. They guys exchanged glances, a kind of silent communication between them. Well, Sophia said, straightening her silverware with deliberate precision. Perhaps it's not too late to make a different decision. The arrival of the appetizers provided a moment of normalcy in the surreal evening. Charles watched as Valeria methodically photographed her plate for research purposes, while Camila dove in with enthusiasm, and Suffer waited for everyone to start before taking her first bite. So Charles ventured, "You're all in Seattle, at Wellington." "Hi, not for long," Camila said eagerly, and quickly covered her mouth when Sophia shot her a warning look. "Oops." Aurora sighed, putting down her fork. "We were going to announce this tonight, before all of this. I was offered a position as the head of creative arts and business education at Riverside Academy here in New York." Charles's heart skipped a beat. "Riverside, that's 10 minutes from Blanco Technology headquarters." "We know," Valeria said meaningfully. "We thoroughly researched it. School's location in relation to various points of interest. In the city, the girls were accepted into their gifted program, and Aurora gradually joined in full scholarships. We were planning to move here this summer before the new school year." The past tense immediately caught Charles's attention. "Surely this doesn't change our plans." "If anything," Valeria interjected, "their proximity to both parents could provide enhanced opportunities for academic and personal growth." Camila nodded enthusiastically. "Besides, their drama department is amazing, and they have a business innovation club that works directly with real companies." And then she trailed off, looking at him hopefully. "And perhaps," she said carefully, "they might be interested in working with the Castillo Blanco Foundation or even Blanco Technologies Youth Mentorship Program." Charles, Aurora warned, but he could see the resolve weakening in her eyes. "I'm not trying to buy their affection," he said quickly, "but these programs exist. They are designed precisely for the kind of bright young minds I see at this table." "Their father," Aurora repeated softly, testing the words. "It's still so strange to hear it out loud." "Strange but true," Sophia declared with her characteristic diplomacy, "and as the elected student body president of my school, I can state with some authority that refusing to acknowledge the truth rarely leads to productive outcomes." Valeria put down her fork with scientific precision. "Been analyzing the variables influencing our potential relocation. The academic opportunities, the cultural advantages, the proximity to extended family, including newly discovered families." Glanced at Charles. "The data strongly supports the decision, and I've already memorized my audition monologue for Riverside's drama club." Camila added, "It's from that play you did with Mom in college." "Mum, the glass menagerie." Aurora's hand trembled as she picked up a water glass. "You found our old program in your memory box," the three girls said in unison, and then laughed. "Eighth synchronicity. That memory box has a lot to say," Charles said with a small smile, and then turned serious. "But perhaps it was about saving these memories until we were ready to facet them, until we were ready to create new ones." "Mum keeps saying we shouldn't live in the past." Sophia pointed out that Westwold always look forward, planned for the future, the future. Charles repeat thoughtfully, "You know, I've spent 9 years planning a future. I thought I wanted board meetings, acquisitions, extra expansions, but sitting here now looking at all of you, I realize I've been planning the wrong future all along." The main courses arrived, steaming and artfully presented, but no one seemed particularly interested in the food. Charles watched as Aurora unconsciously smoothed Comma's napkin, a maternal instinct he hadn't seen develop. "I have a confession to make," he said, suddenly causing all four of them to look up from their Tuesday night dinner reservation. "It wasn't just a habit, I kept it because," she paused, gathering her courage, "because this was our night a date every Tuesday for 2 years in college. I guess I never let it go, just like my mother never gave up on the coffee shop dream." Valeria observed, "She has 3 different business plans in her desk, each up to her current market conditions." Aurora blushed. "You went through my desk for research purposes," Sophia clarified it lamely. "We were trying to understand everything we missed," Charles said quietly. "Everything. I missed first steps, first words, first business proposals," Camila added with a grin. "We tried to sell lemonade futures in the yard last year." "Futures?" Charles couldn't help but laugh. "How did that work out?" "We cornered the market by pre-selling to the teachers," Valeria explained. "Then we're invested the profits in a cookie venture that Sophia negotiated with the school cafeteria," Camila added proudly. "Profit margins were quite respectable," Sophia said, straightening up. "Though Mum made us donate most of it to the school library." Aurora shook her head, but she was smiling. "I should have known they inherited that entrepreneurial spirit from you. They've been running small businesses since they were 6, Charles said, his voice cracking slightly. 6, what was your first venture?" Girls exchanged glances before Valeria answered, "We sold friendship bracelets, but with a twist. We offered an insurance policy. If the friendship ended, they could return the bracelet and get stored. Credit store credit. Charles looked at Aurora in amazement. At 6 years old, they implemented a whole return policy system. She confirmed with a customer satisfaction survey included. The data helped us improve our product line, Valeria explained seriously. Charles felt us pricking his eyes again. They were so much like him, but so uniquely them, so shaped by Aurora's guidance but with his business instincts in their DNA. I want to know everything, he said, suddenly his voice intense. Every business, every play, every science project. I want to know about their first day of school, their favorite books, their biggest dreams. He looked at Aurora pleadingly. I want to be their father, not just biologically, but their dad, if you'll let me. We want that too, Sophia said softly, speaking for all three girls. We've already achieved so much, but she looked at her sisters who nodded encouragingly. But we've always felt like there was a vital member missing from a board of directors in our lives. That's a very professional way to put it, Aurora said, but her voice was gentle. Well, we are starings, Camila pointed out, even though we've been using the last num Castillo. The silence that followed was charged with possibilities. Charles looked at her, seeing both the girl he had loved in college and the strong woman who had raised their daughters alone. What if, he said, slowly, stopped letting the fear of the past dictate our future? What if we took all this love, all this potential, and built something new, not just fancy coffee shops, but something bigger, a family? If you're enjoying this video and want more like this, subscribe and turn on the notification bell. This way you won't miss any of the incredible stories we'll be posting soon. Your support greatly helps the channel grow and allows us to bring you more of what you love. Thank you, Aurora dabbed her eyes with her napkin, composing herself before speaking. A family isn't built as easily as a business. It requires time, trust, and patience, like a long-term investment, Valeria offered, earning a small smile from both parents. Exactly, Aurora agreed. And while I appreciate your enthusiasm, we need to think about what's best for the girls. We're right here, Sophia reminded them gently, and we're old enough to have a say in this corporate merger. Charles couldn't help but chuckle at their words. You're right, perhaps we should put it to a vote, democratic process and all that, like a shareholders meeting. Camila bounced in her seat. Since we're all shareholders now, minority shareholders, Valeria reminded her sister, but she was smiling too well. Sophia said, straightening up even further, if it's permissible, as the interim chairwoman of this meeting, I propose we discuss the practicalities of integrating the CEO of Blanco Tecnologinto, our family structure. Seconded, Valeria added, immediately pulling out their phone. I've already started a list of pros and cons. Hold on, Aurora interrupted it now. There was a hint of amusement in her voice. This isn't something we can vote on over dinner. Why not, Camila asked Adwev. Been waiting 9 years, isn't that enough market research? Charles leaned forward, his voice soft but urgent. Aurora, look at them. They are brilliant, thoughtful, and clearly capable of understanding complex situations. They have been observing me from afar all this time, trying to get to know their father through news and annual reports. They deserve the opportunity to really know me, and you don't deserve to know them, he replied softly. The real me, not just his achievements and business ventures, but his fears, his doubts, his messy mornings, and his grumpy evenings. Everything, he said with firmness. I wanted all the good days and the bad days, the successes and Theophila's, the science fairs and the scraped knees. I have a scar from falling off my bike, Camila offered helpfully. Want to see? Not at the table, Aurora said automatically, and then caught herself resorting to familiar parenting patterns in front of Charles. The reality of what sharing these moments would mean seemed to hit her hard. I have a proposal, Sophia announced, pulling out a small notebook, a first integration plan, so to speak, starting with weekly family dinners to establish a base level of compatibility, followed by scheduled activities aligned with our individual interests. Valeria continued, quickly adapting. I have several scientific hypotheses I'd like to discuss from a fresh perspective. I need help with my Dorothy monologue, Camila added. Mom says you were an amazing wizard in college. Dad. The word dad still sent a jolt through Charles, but this time it was accompanied by a wave of joy instead of pain. He looked at Aurora, trying to convey everything he felt with his eyes. It's evident they inherited your planning skills, he said quietly, and my determination, a dangerous combination, she agreed with a smile, one that will be impossible to resist. When the three girls said in unison, and then burst into giggles. The dessert menus arrived, and without further discussion, everyone knew what they would order: the chocolate soul that held so many memories while they waited for it to be prepared. The conversation took a serious turn. There's something else you should know, Aurora said, her fingers tracing the stem of her water glass. Something I've never told anyone, not even the girls. All four of them leaned forward, slightly impressed by the gravity of her voice. The day I found out I was pregnant, I didn't just try to tell you once. I went to your office 3 times that week. Each time, your assistant told me you were too busy. The third time I saw you through the glass walls of your office shaking hands with your father's board members. Charles felt the color drain from his face. The week of the merger announcement, when we were taking the company private, you looked so satisfied, so sure of your path, she continued. I watched you for 10 minutes standing in the lobby, with one hand on my stomach where our daughters were growing. You didn't look up from your papers, didn't glance towards the lobby where I was waiting. That's when I knew what Sophia asked softly, losing her usual composure, that I couldn't be Theon to ruin your dreams. Your father was sick, the company needed you, and a pregnancy, especially one as complicated as mine. Aurora's voice broke slightly. He thought I was being noble, giving you the freedom to become who you were meant to be, but both were meant to be our parents. Valeria said, her analytical tone giving way to emotion. According to my calculations, the probability of a successful co-parenting arrangement would have been significantly higher with both parties involved from the outset. Well said, sister, Camila said, wiping away tears. Charles leaned across the table, hesitated for a moment, then gently took Aurora's hand. She didn't pull away. Do you know what I was reading in those newspapers that day? He asked quietly. She shook her head. Expansion plans for a chain of coffee shops. I was trying to figure out how to buy and renovate some struggling cafes, turn them into what we dreamed of with Castillo Blanco. I thought if I could make it successful quickly enough, maybe I'd be forgiven for choosing the company first. I was going to pursue with it. Oh, Aurora breathed, understanding dawning in her eyes. Eva spent 9 years building someone else's dream, thinking I'd lost mine. His grip on her hand tightened slightly. But my dream wasn't just about coffee shops and business plans. It was about building something with you, and now there's so much more to build. Sophia said, her voice thick with emotion. Together, Valeria added, firmly as a family. Camila concluded with her characteristic enthusiasm. The Sul arrived at the perfect moment, steaming from its dark, rich surface, just as I thought 9 years ago when 2 college graduates shared their dreams over dessert. I propose an amendment to the integration plan, Sophia announced, sitting up straighter as she fought back to his starting now, not next week, not after a period of adequate analysis. No scandid, Valeria said immediately, her eyes suspiciously bright. All in favor? Asked Brahim, raising her hand. For more hands joined hers without hesitation as they shared the Sul 5 spoons. This time, instead of 2, Javier approached their table, looking apologetic. I'm sorry, Miss Castillo Mersterling, but it's almost closing time. They all looked up in surprise. Somehow hours had flown by like minutes. The restaurant was almost empty, the lights twinkling through the windows where the sunset colors had been at the beginning. Time flows differently when you're rewriting your future, Sophia observed, philosophically speaking. Of course, Valeria added, pulling out her phone. I've prepared a preliminary schedule of family activities. Tuck in Jinto, account everyone's current commitments and optimal opportunities for bonding. And I already told all my friends I'm getting a dad, Camila announced, nearly making Aurora drop her spoon. When you sent the group text, Sophia clarified, very efficient, though perhaps a bit premature. Charles laughed, a deep, heartfelt laugh that made all 4 of them smile. Well, I guess that saves us the trouble. Laugh. A formal announcement. What exactly are we announcing? Aurora asked, slowly. It's not just about you meeting the girls, Charles. This is everything. She squeezed his hand, and this time here, the gesture, everything is exactly what I want. The company, the foundation, this family. They don't have to be separate dreams anymore. They can be one dream balled together with proper corporate oversight. Sophia added, serious lip-prompting laughter from everyone in regular board meetings. Valeria suggested family game nights. Camila added, every successful company needs team-building activities as they gather at their things to leave. Charles paused for a moment, observing his new familiar girls. We're already planning the next day's activities with excited voice. Aurora watched them with a mixture of love and awe, as if seeing them from a new perspective. You know, he said, quietly turning to her, I always thought my father's greatest lesson was about business success is built on relationships, he used to say, but I was wrong for so long. He wasn't talking about business relationships. He was talking about this. He gestured to his daughters, about family, the most important merger of all. Aurora agreed, a mournful ending as they walked out of the Eden together as a family for the first time. The moral of their story was clear. Sometimes the biggest mistakes in life come from trying to protect others from our love rather than having the courage To share its success, ISN single quotes to measured in dollars or achievements, but in the connections we forge and the love we're willing to fight for. It's never too late to correct course, to choose love over fear, to turn missed opportunities into new beginnings. The best investments we can make aren't in stocks or companies, but in the hearts after those we love. Thank you all for watching this incredible story. Don't forget to like, comment with your thoughts on this family's journey, and share this video with someone who needs to hear its message. Remember, it's never too late for love to find its way home.